even though there are numerous examples of much higher, larger, and longer-lasting fires in the area. And in the cases where we saw, the fire that was said started the collapse had actually blown out over an hour before, collapsing mostly into its own footprint, like a house of cards.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Excellencies, members of the panel of presenters, guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. Firstly, I would like to welcome everyone to this very important meeting or conference or forum. The Pradana Global Peace Foundation would like to welcome presenters, participants, and all present to this extremely important forum on an issue that affects the whole world. The purpose of this forum is nothing less than the search for truth on an event that has serious consequences for us all. The Pradana Global Peace Foundation is doing the unthinkable. It is going to seek the truth about the destruction of the twin World Trade Center buildings in New York on 9/11. That is on the 11th of September 2001. The immediate reaction to this unprecedented aerial attack in America was that it was the work of Muslim terrorists. The Al-Qaeda is especially identified as the organization behind this act. As a result, President Bush wanted to go on a crusade against Muslims. He later withdrew that statement, but in fact, his subsequent acts against the Muslims reflected this mindset. He attacked two Muslim countries, Afghanistan and Iraq, killing their people and destroying these two countries, destabilizing them and arresting their progress, even after knowing that the hijackers were not Afghans or Iraqis. The whole Muslim world became suspect. The Muslims are distrusted, subjected to humiliating discrimination, and detained without trial and tortured at will for years in camps situated outside the jurisdiction of U.S. laws. In Guantanamo, Cuba, for example, and in Iraq. Others were flown to countries where torture was practiced so they could be tortured and not break U.S. laws. Then the U.S. actually passed a law legalizing torture, a retrogressive act most unworthy of its claims as the leaders of modern civilization. But the US and Europe are even now paranoid that another similar attack might take place. Security measures and laws have been tightened. All of them were clearly directed against Muslims. Muslim airline passengers have been subjected to humiliating searches. Shoes have to be taken off for examination. Toothpaste and hair creams and liquid cosmetics confiscated. Machines are developed to scan the whole body, and at the slightest suspicion, passengers were hauled off for questioning and detention. The fact that Muslims have been more busy killing each other rather than Americans or Europeans, has not changed the attitudes of the Europeans. Perhaps it is because they feel guilty and expect revenge for the injustices perpetrated by them that they fear Muslims, any Muslim. And more than a decade since 9/11, obsessed with their own security to the detriment of the security of other people. The official explanation for the destruction of the Twin Towers is still about an attack by suicidal Muslim extremists. But even among Americans, this explanation is beginning to wear thin and to be questioned. In fact, certain American groups have thoroughly analyzed various aspects of the attack and destruction of the Twin Towers, the Pentagon building, and the reported crash in Pennsylvania. And their investigations reveal many aspects of the attack which cannot be explained by attributing them to attacks by terrorists, Muslims or non-Muslims. Some of these Americans and many other prominent people have been invited by the Pradana Global Peace Foundation to give their views on 9/11. These people have no axe to grind. They are only interested in seeking the truth. The truth is important because 9/11 has triggered attacks on Muslim countries and people in which hundreds of thousands have been killed and their countries devastated by the shock and awe wars. I have thought a lot about 9/11. I have seen pictures and video clips of the attacks. I have heard the narrators give their opinion regarding the attacks. But to this, I would like to add my own opinion based on my observation of the Arabs at peace and at war. The Arabs may have been great warriors in the past, but after they fell under Western rule, they seem to have lost their prowess in wars. In their wars against Israel, they were so inept that they have never won a single battle, even when the forces, their forces far outnumbered the Israelis. In the years immediately after the formation of the State of Israel, the combined armies of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria were defeated by the smaller Israeli forces. The Arabs never seemed to be able to plan or strategize, and certainly their execution of battle plans are just plain bad. They are not a disciplined people, and this lack of discipline shows everywhere. And they cannot keep anything secret. Someone would leak whatever plan they may have worked out. For money, there are Arabs who are prepared to reveal the hiding places of their leaders. The attack on 9/11 involved very complex elements which needed detailed planning, precise timings, and disciplined execution. There has never been, and will never be, I think, a hijacking of 4 large aircrafts simultaneously. Yet this was what was supposed to have happened. At apparently the same time, the hijackers took command of 4 aircrafts while flying in different airspace in different directions. We cannot know whether the hijackers carried arms, but there has been no report of guns in the debris of the 4 aircrafts. How they could overwhelm the whole crew and take control of 4 aircrafts at about the same time is a mystery. Then the hijackers were supposed to make the aircraft change course and fly to 4 different places. Pilots who realized they were going to die anyhow would have tried to steer away from the towers when it was obvious they were going to crash into them. It would not need much change of direction to miss the towers. But the planes hit the towers squarely, bursting into flames, apparently due to the fuel they carry. Maybe the hijackers were actually flying the aircrafts, but we are told they had only trained with small aircrafts. How did they know how to navigate the huge aircrafts so perfectly after changing course? And time was the essence. If the second plane was delayed, the ground control would have detected that there was something wrong with the second, the third, and the fourth aircrafts. I can imagine trained operatives like those in the CIA or Mossad planning and executing the complex operation. But I cannot imagine an Arab like Osama bin Laden planning and directing the sophisticated aerial attack from some remote place in Afghanistan. They would need an airport control tower with sophisticated instruments to do this, and they would need to be near enough to observe the flights and give directions. The planning alone would have been extremely complex. Lots of data would have to be collected a long time earlier. The pilots had to be trained for very many years before they could fly and navigate the commercial aircrafts. The hijackers needed to take over the 4 aircrafts at about the same time while in flight. The aircrafts to be hijacked must be well selected so as not to be too far from the targets. The aircrafts had to be diverted at the right time for each to reach their targets at about the same time. All these would require a lot of detailed planning and deciding which planes should be hijacked, to the number of hijackers for each plane, to the different roles of hijackers to control the passengers and seize control of the aircrafts from the pilots, to the change in the flight plan, to the routes to be taken, to forcing the pilots to take the new routes, or for the hijackers to take over the piloting of the planes, etc., etc. Hijacking one aircraft is difficult enough, but hijacking 4 aircrafts and flying them so as to hit the targets at about the same time is an impossible task for amateurs. Even professionals would find it difficult to do. Yet 4 aircrafts crashed at about the same time. I apologize to the Arabs, but planning and executing of these complex operations are not something that they can do very well. They are brave and they are willing to die for their beliefs, but they are not like the American Marines who planned and carried out the assassination of Osama bin Laden. Their planning included the disposal of the body of the victim. They are brilliant. This is something that they were trained for years to do. If the Arabs were to undertake such training, it would soon become known to the CIA or Mossad, and they would ensure that the whole operation be aborted. But the fact remains that 4 planes were hijacked and they all crashed on their targets. If the hijackers could not be Arabs, then who were the brilliant hijackers? Clearly there is a need to know. For the event changed the world, making it insecure for everyone and launching a clash of civilization as predicted by Huntington. I may be wrong, of course, but this forum will hopefully reveal the truth behind the event of 9/11. The Pearl Harbor attacks forced the U.S. to join the Second World War. I don't think the Arabs planned to force the U.S. to go to war against the Muslim world, but 9/11 did just that. Pearl Harbor did launch a horrific war which killed hundreds of thousands of 9/11 started a horrific war which killed hundreds of thousands of Muslims, devastated Iraq and Afghanistan, and made Muslims the universal enemies of the whole world. Someone obviously gained from this. Find the beneficiaries, and I believe we will find the real terrorists. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is about finding the truth regarding the world-shaking events of 9/11. Attempts will be made to black out reports on the talks and discussions here. They will be made by the very protagonists of free speech and the free press. But the alternative media will frustrate them and shed light on the events. The majority will probably conclude that the revelations by the speakers are preposterous, but a substantial number will believe or at least rethink their views of the events. As I said earlier, 9/11 has resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and Afghans, as well as a few thousand US and British soldiers. It has devastated two Muslim countries and destabilized them with fratricidal wars which promise to last a very long time. It has divided the world into Muslim and non-Muslim and sowed the seeds of suspicion and hatred between them. It has undermined the security of nations everywhere, forcing them to spend trillions of dollars on security measures. Yet the threat remains not so much from alleged terrorists as from the powerful states and their crusade to change the world. Truly, 9/11 is the worst man-made disaster for the world since the end of the two world wars. For that reason alone, it is important that we seek the truth, because when truth is revealed, then we can really prepare to protect and secure ourselves. Finally, I would like to thank all the speakers for coming all the way to speak on this at this forum. Their dedication to finding the truth is laudable. I would also like to thank those present for the support and their willingness to hear the views of the speakers, despite the likelihood of their being shocked and disgusted with the behavior of those in whom we place our trust to create a better world for humanity. Now it is with great expectation, not great pleasure, but great expectation, that I declare this conference on seeking the truth about 9/11 open. I thank you.